The other situation, and this is, again, big, really is breaking news, because I want to go to Harry Hutchinson, because, Harry, we were supposed to have today a decision from the New York judge, Judge Maran, on whether or not President-elect's convictions could withstand the Supreme Court case and the presidential immunity case specifically. These are the 34 felonies and the misdemeanors that go with them that were brought by Alvin Bragg, that everyone thought was a weak case to begin with. Once it moves out of district court, or even ultimately on appeal, because of the way they were trying to utilize federal law and mix it in with state law, even though they are not federal prosecutors. But the big question now really is, how does the case come to an end? And we thought we might get that decision at some time today, but the Trump team asked, and then the Bragg team decided to join in a request to delay that decision. Harry, the sentencing is not until November 26th. They have frozen the case until November 19th. And the question now is, does this political period of the transition, where the president has won and now is president-elect, and the transition process is an official part of the government, so to have that transfer of power, these are official acts going on and appointments that are being made for the incoming president, by the incoming president. So how much more does that even damage the case from Alvin Bragg? So where do you think you see it going at this point?
Well, I could foresee this case simply going away, but the case really starts, and the problems start, with judicial malpractice by Judge Maran. He allowed into evidence, contested evidence, with respect to Donald Trump's core presidential powers, and that particular decision came into full relief after the Supreme Court's decision in the U.S. versus Trump case, basically disallowing or providing constitutional immunity to presidents for core official acts, and limited or presumptive immunity with respect to other official acts. So Judge Maran decided to allow into evidence, and the jurors heard this, and therefore they reached their verdict on the basis of contested evidence. And so I think a constitutional lawyer would argue that this case ought to disappear. Now, that's a tough decision. It implicates both the judge and the prosecution in this case, but even the prosecutor's office believes that there is indeed a basis for at least staying sentencing, staying the verdict, and perhaps avoiding the case. But I think at the end of the day, the judge might decide simply to defer any judgment until 2028, 2029, after President Trump has served his full 4-year term.
Yeah, I mean, so, Will, most people look at this as a game of how quick are they going to wrap these up. And the Trump team says, in their email, for instance, the special counsel's office sought the stay relief, and they are now considering dismissing all of their prosecutions in Washington, D.C. The same thing is happening in Florida out of federal cases there on whether or not the special counsel is even a constitutional position, which, though we filed in, unfortunately, looks like we won't get to a final say on that matter this time around, which means you could still, I guess, appoint special counsels if you are president with just that one district court outstanding. But it's certainly something we should probably be dealing with over the next 4 years, because we've seen the abuse of these special counsels now for 8 years straight. And it has been abusive and ridiculous, and the amount of taxpayer money that's gone to them is just absolutely absurd. But it does look like on the federal side, we are coming to a quick close, and that is because there is a law, just so people know, there is the Presidential Transition Act of 1963, and that makes it very clear that this is an official act of the president-elect. This is an official part of the government that is acting right now to go forward and vet these candidates and ultimately announce your cabinet and go through the process of those who have to be confirmed, others who will be advisors.
That's right. And the peaceful transfer of power, which the left has tried to bring up so many times, that isn't just on Inauguration Day or the certification day. in the Congress. This begins now because there are national security briefings that are happening for the president-elect. There are security buildup. There are working with the GAO to start setting up offices and how that runs. And many times it's not someone who has been a president before. Only once in our history has it been someone who's actually been the president before that wasn't just continuing on.
Even though he has a lot of his team will still be new, like a new group of folks.
Exactly. So there's a lot of even instruction in learning about how to operate the executive branch that has to go on. And what the concern, and I know that Judge Maran is weighing this, and the DA even, of, hey, if we step into this right now, this could have real implications on even national security. If for some reason we try to go maximum penalty or even a slight penalty, say throw him in jail for 36 hours, that really has implications on the United States. I think what the legal pundits on all the news media are getting paid overtime today because of the uniqueness of what is going on with this. But there's across the board really many options that the judge could weigh here. Could he, as Harry Hutchison said, freeze the case entirely for 4 years and let this dangle over the president's head until he's 83 years old and then say, you're out of office now, let's go ahead and move forward with sentencing? I think that would have big trouble on appeal for the district attorney's office, who may not even be the district attorney anymore at that point. But then you also have to think about, could he say, we're going to do a fine, get this out, and still enter the judgment? Or does he throw it out entirely? There are many people that even brought up the left is loving to call him a convicted felon. However, yes, the jury did render a guilty verdict. That judgment hasn't been entered in until Judge Maran enters that in with the sentencing. So there's a lot of different areas here that could completely change the narrative of this. What it all boils down to me, Jordan, is their lawfare is coming to an end. They waited to bring these charges until it would be inflicting the most amount of damage on President Trump running for office. Now that grift is up as far as the political angle of this. It is time to move forward. And if they are truly wanting to unite America, which I don't believe they want to unite America behind President Trump, they would say, you know what? We tried. This is the course of it. The American people, the largest jury pool in America, have spoken overwhelmingly that they want President Donald Trump as the next president of the United States.
Question quickly from John so Harry can answer it. Hey, John in Illinois, on line 1, you're on the air.
Hi, yes, good morning. Just real quick, 2 quick questions. One, is there not some way to fast track this whole thing to a higher court to get an actual official decision on this? And then number 2, doesn't the Trump team have some kind of way to prosecute this judge for the malicious way he's conducted this entire trial?
All right, so Harry, on number 1, you don't want to move it any forward because this judge is looking at ways to toss it out. If he doesn't and tries to put a hold on it, then you can move forward. Second, on any kind of malicious, this is the judge doing this. The judge just got to sign this case. He gave the instructions out. It was a jury who came back with a decision, not the judge.
Absolutely. And yes, President Trump could appeal any decision rendered by this particular judge, but that is hugely difficult for this judge in the sense that it's the judge's own misconduct, arguably, that triggered all of this, but that would be decided on appeal.
Right. So, folks, the election was a week ago, but our work to defend election integrity is far from over. We've got more than a dozen House races. Can you believe that in America? A week after the election, a dozen House races are still too close to call. So figuring out what the balance of power truly looks like in the House of Representatives, the radical left is desperately filing lawsuits to try and allow illegal votes and get all these votes that haven't been corrected in. So we are fighting back. And just hours ago, we filed a critical brief in federal court to defend election integrity now and in the future. We're prepared to take it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Donate today.